Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Strictly speaking, this is my first new video for a very long time. I did a massive amount of filming a couple of days last week while watering and repotting and unpotting and all that sort of stuff, and I did massive amounts of videos which I've just been trickle feeding. So I haven't actually filmed much for quite a while. I had to work out which way up the camera goes. Quite honestly, as far as videos go, there are only so many things you can do. You know, new growths, new spikes, buds, blooms opening, new plants, unboxing. You know, there's only so many videos you can do. So ideas in the comment section would be gratefully received. You know, any specific plant somebody wants to look at, how it's getting on, things like that, that they can be easily accommodated. Not necessarily immediately, because I would normally wait till I handle the plant and water it. And obviously my watering frequency is still quite low. It's still only just February after all. But we have reached 9.5 hours now. You know, that's from its lowest point of only a bit over 7.5, which is just an outrageously low amount of light to have for what are basically tropical orchids. You know, so they slow right down, if not stop growing. They just don't get enough light without some sort of artificial lighting, which I don't do and have no plans on doing, so don't start. I couldn't do it in here. Where would I put the lights? I've said it many times before. I've got so many shelves full. You know, I would effectively need lights above virtually every shelf. You just have a count up, yeah. And then there's all the ones that are hanging very close. It just can't be done out here. I can't do it. Much as I'd like to, but I can't. And then there's the wiring. I've got enough wires hanging around the place as it is. Yeah, so ideas would be gratefully received. Obviously I've got my own channel and my own plants. But I do watch as many of the other orchid related videos as I can, and something special happened this morning. Danny, bless her cotton socks, has managed to get Rhyncholalia glauca to bloom, and you know what, I can honestly say that is the first one of that plant I have ever seen in bloom. And if you ever listen to her video, it's obviously pretty special. I've got one and it grows well, but the blighter won't bloom. It's been on the why won't you bloom list since I got it, and that was quite a few years ago. It just will not bloom for me. But Danny's got one to bloom. Go and have a look. You know, the blooms are not stunning, they're large, but you know, to actually get that plant to bloom is pretty special. So there's something to go and have a look at on somebody else's channel. And that's Danny, D-A-N-I, short for Danielle, not Danny as in oh Danny boy the song. Now I'm being pedantic. She doesn't mind how you spell her name, she just likes the comments. As do I. I mean, my name hasn't got a D in it, despite it being in huge big letters on the front of every single video. People still put a D in it in the comments. I don't mind. It's no big deal. I'm not filming blooms today because it's coming up to the 8th where I do everything in bloom, and quite honestly, for the time of year, I'm not doing bad. There is quite a lot of colour in and around here today. Not bad at all. There's a point I want to chat about that I'm beginning to get worried about. We all know that certain Oncidium types are prone to little marks on their leaves. You know, everybody says, oh, that's how they are. Well, strictly speaking, it's not how they are. If you start having a look round, there is a type of fungus that you can get and it can spread. Only in certain conditions, and I haven't strictly speaking found out those exact conditions yet. It can be treated with fungicides to sort of stop it spreading and things like that. But the thing I'm starting to get a bit worried about started off with a plant, the Maxillaria arachnitiflora, and I mean, it's very easy to see without digging the plant out. That's what it looks like, and I immediately thought virus. and it's on quite a few of the older leaves, but it's not necessarily on the newer leaves. Yeah, so I think, I don't know what it was or is. You know, it's still on the plant. I'm not cutting all the old leaves off until the new growths get going, at which point I might. But let me see if I can find some. The problem I've got seems to occur on quite a few plants. Now it looked, ow, so I've just been hit by the fan. It's attacking me from behind. I thought I had it on this one, but then historically I looked back and this plant had really bad scale when these two new growths were produced. So as these leaves were in their embryo form, they got bitten. And I think this is nothing more than the marks the scale made when the leaves were young. So I'm not counting that one. There's a nobly. There's little spots on the leaves, pale coloured spots. Now these are older leaves, they're going to fall soon. So again, on that plant I'm not particularly worried. But yeah, can you just see the slightly pale patches? Now the new leaves on the latest growth are sort of okay, I think. Some of my Oncidiums have definitely got it. It's difficult to get at it. That big one up the back, if you look at the very back leaf that's up near that extension lead, the one sticking up into the Vanda roots, that's the back of the leaf, that's got it. And some of the other Oncidium ones have got it. This dendrobium over here, you can only really see it when the light is shining on the leaves, because on this latest growth the leaves don't look too bad, but the older ones are not so good. There's a couple on this little twinkle. They're just little marks. And I don't get water on my plant, so it's not that. Now there is a possibility that, you know, some there, there is a possibility that during last year when I had the scale getting a little bit out of hand, shall we say, and that's an understatement, I did routine spraying. Now it is remotely possible that the spray affected some of the very thin-leaved orchids and can cause some come on brain, it's early in the day even though the sun's up, can cause some cell damage which would lead to spots of discoloration, especially if the spray actually formed little, you know, little puddles, little spots of liquid rather than a very fine spray, if you know what I mean, and then was possibly followed by some bright light getting on the leaves. So there's another possibility. These are all possibilities, no definites, just possibilities. But I'm not getting concerned to the extent that, you know, I'm going to chuck all my plants out in the yard and put a flamethrower on them, but it seems to be occurring in places I'm not expecting it. Now the other thing is that it could just be one of the elements deficiency. It's certainly at the levels I feed and the fact that I don't get my plants wet as such, I can't see as I've got an overdose of anything. It's more likely to be an underdose of something. And quite honestly, the obvious candidate is calcium. But it could be magnesium. I mean, magnesium is quite prominent in the production of chlorophyll, which is what gives leaves its green colour. So obviously pale patches and just generally paler coloured leaves could be magnesium deficiency. But what I need to do this year is keep my eye on it, because this year I've introduced the CalMag supplement as part of my routine feeding. But you can overdose magnesium. I'm not sure you can overdose calcium. It'll just sit in the plant and do nothing, you know. Once calcium gets set in its place, it doesn't move. It's a non-mobile element. So you tend to get the problems on the new growths, whereas magnesium you're more likely to get on the older parts of the plant. And quite honestly, the problem I see here and there around the place does tend to be on older leaves. Yeah, because magnesium's mobile, so the plant will move it to where it's most needed, providing it's got some. So I'll have to keep my eye on things this year. I mean, each year something gets done slightly different, and this year the CalMag is introduced into the cycle of feeding. I've yet to establish how often, but you know, I mean, at the moment I'm only watering very infrequently, and I certainly don't want CalMag to be going in there every single time, but the frequency of watering is going to start to increase. As I said, we're around the 9.5 hours daylight now. By the end of the month we're nearly up to the magic 11 hours, and then things really start to kick off. Plants get back into their comfort zone, back to their normality as far as day lengths are concerned. And then heading out into March, things will really start to push on with the extra light and a bit of extra warmth perhaps as a consequence. So yeah, just a few little worries. You know, as I said, I'm not in a position where I'm panicking or anything, but I have noticed these palish yellow markings on some of the leaves. Now on the older leaves, as they start to die off, that could be a natural process, but certainly if I start seeing anything like that on the younger growths, it will cause me enough to worry about and deal with. This one in particular, if you look at this is a typical Oncidium with the typical marks. Now this fungus, if that's what it is, lives on the surfaces. It's unlikely to kill a plant, and it can be dealt with. And I think as a routine precaution I may actually go round with the fungicide. But you can see that's a typical Oncidium leaf that has this particular fungus. I can't pronounce it, so I'm not going to try, but you can look it up. But I mean, this little tiny twinkle is actually pushing out new growths now. You can see one down in there. The new growths are okay. It just seems to be on older leaves. Yeah, so yeah, I just need to keep my eye on things and see what's going on, and see if this thing is something I ought to start worrying about. I mean, if you take that Sherry baby there, that's an old leaf. You know, it's starting to yellow. It will fall off soon. That's one of the oldest pseudobulbs. Most of the leaves don't look bad, but look at that new growth. That new growth has not got nice bright green leaves. It's got patching. It's not a uniform colour. So yeah, we'll do the CalMag thing and see if that helps. Or, I mean, I don't believe once a leaf gets like this, it ain't going to get better, let's put it that way. But what you can always look for when you've had a problem and some marks are on some leaves, what are the new growths like? You know, and if they're coming up clean, then you're doing okay, I believe. Half of this is guesswork. Just as an aside, this Maxillaria picta isn't. Looking on the internet at what these blooms should look like, these are not right, and they're far from right. These should have prominent spotting on the backs of the sepals, which would show on the buds just before opening, and they're not there. The backs of these blooms are spotless. I don't mean squeaky clean, I mean they have 0 spots. And the colouring on the inside of the plant is missing too. It's only on the lip. So either that's an alba form or even a semi-alba form, possibly, but it's not what it was sold as. And I'm going to sell that plant. I've got an Orchid Society meeting coming up Saturday. It's in bloom and it's got new growths pushing out. So I don't want this. It's not what I bought. And it's not good enough for me to want to keep. It's not special enough. There's no fragrance there. I don't know how long the blooms are going to last, but I'm looking to rationalise constantly at this time of year, and anything that doesn't justify its position just gets moved on, leaving some space for other plants to grow into, and the possibility of some newer ones as the season progresses. Just had a look on eBay. There's some smashing plants up for sale at the moment, especially from Orchid Man. But to me, it would be a bit silly to buy from him at this time of year. We're apparently coming up to one of the coldest weeks of the winter. And that's here, not where he lives. It's probably worse over there. So to transport plants this time of year, to me, is just too high a risk, no matter how special that plant might be. So I'll just wait till we get out to him sort of April time and have another look round, see if there's anything going on. But I'm being very selective this year with new plants, and quite honestly, I want, in an ideal world, I want to pick that plant up, turn it upside down, have a good look at it, really have a good look at it. And the only way to do that is in person, you know, or somebody you can rely on to do it for you, which happened a couple of times last year. So yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do, is that one can go. It's in an ideal time to get a good price for that. And I paid next to nothing for that plant when I got it. It was only, I think it only had about 4 bulbs on it when I got it. So it's grown quite well, but it doesn't appeal to me enough to warrant its space. Now it's bloomed. There may be some others that do that, so watch out, you non-bloomers. You're on borrowed time. You either need to perform and do well, or you're on the way out. Right, so ideas for new videos, greatly appreciated. I mean, you probably won't come up with anything specifically new, but, you know, some people, like, they buy a plant and then they see that version of that plant in one of my videos and, you know, ask how I look after it, or how's it getting on? Have you done anything special for that particular type of plant? All things like that are ideas for videos, so don't keep them to yourself. Let me know, and I'll do my best to keep up with the massive list I'm going to get. But please, put your ideas forward. You know, the worst that can happen is it doesn't get done. You know, if you don't ask, you don't gain anything. So give it a try. And I've got nothing to water today. I'm going to have a look up in a bit more detail about these pale spots, pale yellowing spots on some of my leaves. It's not throughout the whole thing, you know. There's lots of new growths have come up on plants that are smashing. They're fine, and the older leaves don't look too bad either. But on some, it's just starting to give me a little bit of concern. What's this Brassica doing? That's got a massive new growth. I mean, that's got a nice new leaves on it. There's nothing wrong with that one. So it's not everywhere, it's just in places. And quite honestly, it does look like it's more prominent on the weaker plants. You know, on the Oncidium intergenerics that are being rescued. They seem to succumb to this dark spotting a bit easier than some of the others, perhaps. Oh well, I have to see how I go with that, and I'll let you know. But I'm hoping that the CalMag is the solution, because you know, lack of calcium, weaker new growths, more susceptible to things. Magnesium deficiency leads to those coloration spots or stripes or things like that. You're lacking the chlorophyll, you're lacking the colour, you're lacking your green. So I can see that could be it. But you know, proof of the pudding, give it a go and see what happens. I'm not going to be able to find them now, but last time I watered my Hercoglossum, I saw some signs of buds. Now that's a bit early, but they do take a while to develop. But yeah, there's one. Yeah, so that one looks like it's starting to think about blooming. And the good bit with this one is the new canes have finally got enough weight to start to droop. You can see there's only one left sticking upright. All the others are starting to come over now and become pendulous, which is good, because it means I don't have to hang it so low. Once they become pendulous, obviously they can get nearer the roof, which gets the bottom of the plant away from the others. It lets a bit more light through. So, so that was good. Oh, this one as well, this bamboo bush. I've seen a few blooms on these recently, so it's obviously either around or coming up to the time of year when it may bloom. But I haven't had it long enough to know what to look for. But I did notice that there's a little nubbin on that cane. But then this dendrobium branches. It naturally produces long arching canes that grow up and then arch over, and then out of the arched over bit it branches. It produces branches all over the place. So that could be nothing more than a new branch coming out on an old cane. But it is one of the oldest canes, this one. And it has bloomed before. And looking at where the bloom spikes came out of before, could be. You never know. Anyway, thanks for dropping by, and please come up with some ideas. They're gratefully appreciated. As I say, there's only so many types of videos. I mean, the next regular one will be everything in bloom on the 8th, where I'll go over each individual plant that's actually in bloom and have a quick chat about that. But it's the 6th today, so and I've got some watering to do tomorrow, so any ideas may be able to be accommodated tomorrow, so we'll see how we go. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.